Hey guys, in this episode of MTR Conversations, I'm talking with Stacey Jefferson. And she has some questions about how to get started in rental arbitrage, that specific model. We also talk a little bit about the rent by room strategy, specifically how to price room rentals. And we talk a little bit about how to start a property management business, which is what I do, and some important differences between a property management business and a co-hosting business because they are very different, though people often use those terms interchangeably. Again, if this is the first time you've watched one of these, Stacy is a member in our school community about MTR's midterm rentals, and we do these conversations with our school members because I believe the questions that our members have are questions that many of you may have as well about midterm rentals. So we want to make these conversations available for you so you can learn along with us. And if you want to learn more, you could, of course, come join our free community as well. The link is in the description below. But I hope you enjoy our conversation. Thanks. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about if if you have any midterm rentals, what your experience is at, and like kind of what you're working on, what's your goals.
So right now I have one midterm rental. And so basically, I don't say only one anymore. I say
I like
one
that.
because
I like it.
remember we had that conversation.
Yes.
Okay. So the way I got into it, it's kind of it's a hybrid because I started using it as an Airbnb. So it was my first home. And then I moved out of there and I bought my second home. And then I decided to keep it as an Airbnb. I love to stay in Airbnbs. I'm in hospitality. I'm like customer service. I'm a people person.
Yeah.
So I like to make sure people have a great experience.
Yeah.
So so I decided to run it as an Airbnb because that's one of my dreams. My goal really is to own a bed and breakfast.
Okay, cool.
I really would want to do that. I mean, I love that.
Yeah.
And so I decided to do that. But prior to doing that, I had I was on a seminar
Okay.
and they were talking about Airbnb arbitrage, rental arbitrage.
Yep.
And so at that point, when they started to talk about that, they started talking about furnish finders. So that was the first time I heard about midterm rentals.
Got it.
And so that just kind of, it put up a light bulb, right? And, I was like, oh, I think I could do both. And I think it would be better for me to get nurses in here. So I started kind of going down the rabbit hole and, trying to find out a lot of information about that.
Cool.
And so basically, um, I turned on the Airbnb and I started, getting it together for that. And then as I was doing that, I put myself on Furnish Finders as well.
Yep.
And so I started getting a lot of people, requesting to stay and stuff like that. So what I started to do, because I didn't know a lot about it, but I was like, okay, I have to vet these people and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so what I started to do is I started to reach out to people on Furnish Finders. And so, ask them questions and, if, because a lot of them were, I have a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, right? And so a lot of people were coming in and they were saying, they needed one room or the budget wasn't there, whatever. So I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to call people and ask if they have somebody else that they're traveling with, and so that's how I actually got my first midterm rental, a nurse.
Okay.
And so I called and I asked him, I said, hey, do you have anybody that you're traveling with? And, you guys can split the cost or whatever. Well, end up, he was traveling with his brother,
Okay.
which was perfect,
Yeah.
right? So that was my first taste of midterm rental. So they were only going to stay for 3 months, but they ended up extending, I think, 6 to 9 months,
Wow. Okay.
right? So that was good for me. It was a blessing, honestly. And so in between that, so after they left, I went back into Airbnb because I didn't want to kind of tie it up,
Okay.
right? I didn't, and I wasn't getting any more requests at that point. Well, fast forward, I got another lady that was an occupational therapist, and right now she's been in there since August.
Oh, so good year.
Yes. And month to month.
Yeah.
And the same, and it's midterm rental pay.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
So midterm rental rate. And so I was that honestly too, that was a blessing for me too. So we have a very good rapport. She keeps the place immaculate.
Nice.
And yeah, and so that's kind of how I fell into it.
Got it.
But now I have a lot of insurance, I had reached out to the insurance claims
Yeah.
for, insurance and stuff. And so I've had them reach out to me about my property. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I need to get another property.
Yeah.
I need to get another property so I can house these people. So that's where I'm at right now.
Is that your goal then, to get another property next?
Yes.
Okay.
So my goal is to have a mixed portfolio of short-term rentals and mid-term rentals. And of course, like I said, I would love to have a bed and breakfast because I love making people feel comfortable and,
Yeah. Awesome.
people person. So yeah.
Cool. So do you have are you, as far as that next property, is it something you would buy, or would it be rent arbitrage or something else?
So that was one of my
All
questions
right.
for you because yes, I really would love to buy
Yeah.
another property. I'm not there yet. So my question to you was like how to get into the rental arbitrage space.
Yeah.
I would really love to do that. And to put a caveat on it, so my property's in Dallas.
Yep.
I'm in Raleigh right now.
Okay.
And for me, I want to be able to do it either here in Raleigh or in Dallas. So,
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but I got my start with rental arbitrage. When this is back in 2017, 2018, and that was our primary focus. We were trying to get as many as we could before the pandemic. We had 13 apartments at the peak. So that's how I got started. And then for different reasons, shifted to this co-hosting and eventually property management model. Um, so I did make a video for Chris had a question. I don't know if you saw the comment. I made a video for him actually to answer his question. And that video is about the co-hosting versus rental arbitrage, pros and cons,
mhm,
since I've done both. But essentially, rental arbitrage, if you do your numbers and the risk with it, of course, is you got to pay the rent, even if you don't have a booking, right?
right.
So you kind of have a high expense there. So if you do your analysis and you see that there's good demand and then you can make a healthy margin, that's when it makes more sense. So like in my market in LA, just because the rents are so high, there's not that much margin for midterm to long term. So
Mhm,
it's not really worth the risk. And that's kind of why I switched. Um, so that's kind of where I would start, get an idea of, let's say a certain property you're aiming for, what is typical long-term rent there? You add in some utilities, right? Because you're paying for that. And then how
mhm,
much you think you'll rent it out for midterm and see like, is it enough of a margin for you to feel comfortable with that? And then also a common challenge people have is, how do I find a property or a landlord who's willing to say yes? Um, I think the strategy is more well known now, but I'm sure there's a lot of landlords that are still like they don't know about this concept. So if
right.
you kind of
Yes.
pitch it to them, they're going to be kind of like, "Whoa, this sounds weird," kind of like fishy. But really, my opinion is if a good rent arbitrage operator actually is a better tenant for the landlord than a regular tenant, right? Because you're not going to bother them with anything. You're taking care of it. You're not going to be that tenant who's like has constant maintenance needs. You could work out certain things like, you could tell the landlord, hey, anything small, maybe below a certain price point maintenance, I'll just take care of it. You don't have to worry about it.
That's a good idea.
So there's value there for a landlord, as opposed to some landlords will view it as riskier. I think it's actually less risky if the operator's doing, a good job with it. Um, yeah, so that's kind of like high level where I would start with that. Some people like I've had better luck in the past with mom and pop landlords. If it's a big building and you're talking to like a property management company, they probably
Hmm.
say no because it's different. But like the landlords I've worked with are usually more flexible and open to different strategies. And sometimes if you find a landlord, maybe they're having trouble like getting it rented, right? You could also be a solution for them.
Oh, true. Yes, I truly believe that. Yeah, I've talked to a few people, and again, I was in Dallas at that point, but I talked to a few people at that point. They weren't ready to pull the trigger, so I have to circle back around to them and ask them because they weren't using their property, and I think it was a family house,
Okay.
a family home. So they were they wanted to entertain the idea,
Yeah.
but they weren't so sure at that point. So I think for me, the co-hosting thing would also be perfect for me, I believe, because with my Airbnb, I had 5 stars,
Great.
5-star host.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I pretty much pride myself on that. A lot of people said it was like a home away from home for them,
Great.
and make them feel comfortable. I'm a person that really loves a personal touch,
Yeah.
and that was the other question I was going to ask you. With you being, you're in LA as well,
Yeah.
correct?
I am. Yes.
Okay. But you have so many properties. With you having so many properties, how do you continue to have that personal feel, that personal touch?
That is a great question. Um, the short answer I would say is while that is important to us, it is not the highest priority. So I think this comes down to like if you were to do co-hosting, it comes
Hmm.
down to what you want your brand to be about and what kind of service you want to offer, right? So
Hmm.
the reason I say it's not the highest priority is I do believe with short-term rentals, the hospitality matters more because the Airbnb reviews matter so much, right? You kind of like live or die
Right.
based on like your guest ratings. Your listing could kind of disappear if the average is too low and all of that. So with midterm, we're not as beholden, I would say, to Airbnb reviews, right? So in that
Right.
sense, we're not I definitely want to provide the best service for our guests. We can, but we're not like so worried that every review has to be 5 star, right? In that sense, because we get a lot of direct bookings and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
part of it, and this is kind of more like a business thing. So I would say it is a choice, right? As far as you could definitely grow a hosting business and prioritize that piece. Um, for example, for us, I definitely prioritize keeping our clients, the homeowners, happy more than the guests. And it's I think it comes down to like any business, you have to choose what to focus on because you can't do everything well, as you know. So like what's the most important for us? Um, I'm confident, like, maybe because of a market, there's high demand. So I want to make sure our clients are happy and it's not so much of a struggle to get the bookings per se, right? So
Hmm.
kind of indirect answer there. I think, if that was a priority for you as you built co-hosting, I think the way you would do that is, at some point, I imagine you would have to hire like a VA to help with customer service. So I think it
Hmm.
comes down to who you hire and how you train them, right? They're not going to be a copy of you, right? Which is that would be
Right.
the dream, right? Of course, because I used to do all this myself, and then it got to a point, obviously, I couldn't do it. But still, like as far as the recruiting and the training and how they respond to messages and kind of like the tone and all that, it becomes almost like a developing like right now I could tell you already have a great hospitality skill set if you were communicating right. It would be if you were to do a lot of co-hosting properties, then it would be developing the skill of how do I train someone to do what I do, right, which
Mm-hmm.
I also
Yes.
had to learn.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah, thank you for that answer. Because the one thing that I do, with the Airbnb, when I was doing the Airbnb, I love to leave like personal notes. Like I put a little card. I mean, because the thing is, things don't have to be so expensive, right? I go to the dollar store and I get a little card and I say thank you for, it's the thought that counts. And people really, they really love that.
Yeah.
I only had one person that said, and I think she was an Airbnb host as well. And she said, "Oh, you do too much." And I'm like, when you're talking about people and your brand, you want people to know this is you. You want them to have a great
Yeah,
experience
yeah.
because they come for you.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's personally fulfilling for you, right? Because not
Oh,
everything,
yes.
and this is the part I think that's hard for, you can't really like create a process for this. There's no like ROI, like how much more money are you making by leaving these cards? like that doesn't matter, right? Sometimes it's just like this is who I am, this is what I'm about. And
Hmm.
yeah. We used to do that and the cards, it was actually a idea of someone on my team. But then she's not in that role anymore, and then we stopped doing it. I think it's nice, something we can kind of bring back. But I agree with you. It's not expensive to provide great service.
Yes, true. The one question I had, and again, I just want to tell you, thank you for doing this because, of course, this does add a lot of value to me. It's
Of
valuable for
course.
me and a lot of people. So,
My pleasure.
um, the one question I had is actually for my friend.
Okay.
She just brought her own house and she's getting a room ready to
Yeah.
rent out to someone.
Okay.
So she was asking me questions. I've been helping her get the place together and stuff like that. And so she was asking me about, the charge. How much should she be charging as far as, because it's one room,
Yeah.
utilities and stuff like that. So
Uh,
how do you really gauge that?
so she should be living in the home and she wants to rent out one of the rooms. Is that right?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as the actual rate, like the daily or monthly rate for the room, it's very similar to a whole property, right? Look, in that particular market, she could go on Airbnb and look up other rooms, other room rentals, see what other hosts are charging. With room rentals, the biggest difference in pricing is if they have a private bathroom or not, right? If you think about someone renting a room, makes a big deal. It's like I have a shared bathroom or private bathroom. So you'll notice like whatever market's in, if you look at here's the price range for bedroom with shared bath and then price range for bedroom with private bath. It's quite a bit of difference there. Um, and then utilities, that question's interesting. Do you know if she wants to do short term or midterm or both?
So I believe she's going to be doing midterm.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
I think the easiest thing to do really is just include utilities, like don't charge it separately.
Hmm.
When I think of utilities and like what can make that very expensive is usually like AC and heating, right?
Right.
Because it's a room, I doubt the room has its own like I mean, I guess if the room has its own air conditioning, then
Hmm.
that's something to think about. But if it doesn't, then just from the normal electricity use, I don't think of very much. So to me, just simpler to have one less thing to worry about and kind of rent it out, assuming that that's covering utilities there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but as far as the room rental rate, looking up the comps on Airbnb, I think is the best way to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll definitely tell her that. Let's see. Um, the other question I wanted to ask, and I think you kind of touched on this because I asked it in the group
yeah.
about how to start a property management business.
Uh, Great question. Again, every state has licensing requirements for a property management business. So, I'll speak on California and how they do it. I know a lot of states are similar, but from all the different states I've looked into, you either need a real estate license or a broker's license. So
Mm,
a broker's license is like more work required than the normal license. In California, the actual broker's license is required. Other markets, other states are different. So first thing I would say is look into the state's rules. You could Google or ask AI, like, property management licensing requirements for whatever state. This is something I've thought a lot about this and looked into it a lot, and talked to other hosts. There is a gray area. So I'll try to keep this not too long-winded. But with short-term rentals, if you're doing just under 30 days, most states will treat that separately. So, like if you're co-hosting stuff like that, the property management law doesn't apply because they're not tenants and all that stuff. So the gray area kind of begins if you're co-hosting or managing a midterm rental for someone else. And then, of course, a long-term rental definitely applies. But it's because a lot of states view a midterm rental the same as a long-term rental. There's
mm,
tenancy and all that. So, um, the two main differences often talked about is if you are not a property manager, you cannot, and again, this is California, probably most other states, you can't collect the rent. Right? So if you're
mm,
co-hosting and the guest books, the money can't come to you, it has to go to the owner, and then you
mhm.
invoice the owner. Uh,
Okay.
Essentially, one of the requirements, well, one of the things you could do if you are licensed as a property manager is handle the rent. And another piece that's very specific is if you are doing a lease for like a direct booking, the landlord will have to be the owner's name. If you're a property manager, you can't put your name, like we put our name as a landlord because we're a property management
Okay.
company. And then that's the most black and white. There's a lot of other gray areas that I'm not too worried about, but like sometimes if you read like what again, for California example, if you read what is all the activity that you're allowed to do as a property manager includes stuff like marketing the property, uh, you know, negotiating rent, coordinating maintenance, which is things all co-hosts do, right? But that's kind of gray area there where the way I would describe it is if you're a co-host, you're kind of like an assistant to the homeowner and you're doing it for them. So
Mhm.
kind of, but yeah, that's the gist, kind of this whole property management versus co-hosting, kind of how I would break it down.
Okay. I know you guys have a paid membership. Do you
Yes.
think, and I haven't gotten in there, I know Clint has. That's how I got on here.
Oh, did
I
you
mean,
did
that's how
Clint
I,
invite you?
yes,
Oh,
Clint
cool. I
invited
didn't know
me.
that. Okay.
I met him on on the Dallas Airbnb host site.
Nice. All right.
And I was in there, asking people if they had any properties
Yeah.
because I had something that came up for the insurance. And so that's how I met him.
Got
And
it.
then he invited me to this. And so I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even know anything about it, but very great information. Um, and he told me about the paid membership. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, with all these, questions surrounding property management and all the
Yeah.
hosts you have in there, do you guys have anything underneath there that kind of gears toward that? Or are you putting something together that might help be helpful?
Specifically the property management piece.
Yes, and some other things because I think like, some of the questions that may come up
Yes.
may be a good thing to put under there as a kind of like
Yeah, yeah. So I would say right now I don't think we have any like content or resources about that piece. But essentially the paid membership, it's two things. Right now we have one extra weekly call for the paid
Mhm.
members. So the idea there is it's a smaller group, of course, so everyone gets more time to chat. And it feels more we talk a lot about just like catching up, a small talk is fun.
Like a
The
family.
idea, yeah, the idea, of course, is more time together, right? Uh, at some point, we might add another call because if that gets too big, then the same problem happens. And another piece, so there's more time and then more resources. The classroom section where we have everything for paid members, we're always adding things there. And James and I, like, we regularly meet and talk about what else can we add? What else can we add? And I have a lot of ideas of just essentially everything I learned in my business. I want to make it accessible for people. Mini courses like a rent arbitrage course, a co-hosting course, stuff like that, setting up your MTR course. So it's something that's growing really. So
Okay.
that I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And really we want to get the members' feedback as far as what you guys want, because that's what we'll build.
Okay. That sounds good. Do you have any like age restrictions? So in the MTR world, like with Airbnbs, you
Mhm.
have to I'll be on the constant lookout for people. Is it the same in midterm rental? Do you have age
You know what?
restrictions?
That is a unique question that I have not thought about much. We don't really encounter issues where like minors are trying to book, so I don't think it
Hmm.
comes up often. I guess you could decide like, do you want to have like a 21 minimum or 18 minimum, right? I think this we sometimes will get college students booking, maybe for like an internship. So their parents
Yes.
are looking for them. So it's not really a problem I've had to think about. And I don't know, maybe there's a legal like requirement as well. But I think if you stick to 18 or 21, I mean I'm sure that is covered legally. But yeah, you know what? That's not something I've thought much about. We don't have in writing a requirement just because
Okay.
we don't get that young of a person trying to rent from us.
Oh, I see.
Have you
Yes.
ever done that?
I've had not on the furnished finders,
Yeah.
but through Airbnb, yes. I've
Okay.
had a group that wanted to book And actually, it turned out okay
Okay.
because the father, no, the son, he tried to rent in, and I was a little bit, hesitant about
Sure.
renting, and I think it didn't go through because they were coming for New Year's Eve, right?
Mm.
And so I was okay with that. But then they reached out to me, and I think the dad reached out to me and said, hey, they were coming down. They were actually coming for a church event.
Okay.
And so I ended up looking up his profile and I, made the decision and said, okay, yeah, that's fine. And actually they did really well. They left me, personal note and everything like
Oh,
that. So that turned out okay. But I'm always a little bit hesitant about, renting
sure.
to a certain age group because you don't know what they're gonna do,
Yeah, I think especially
right?
for short term, right? I could see that
Right.
being a thing.
And
Yeah.
then for midterm, I guess, because on Furnish Finders, they have the people that come in and you see their age or the college kids and stuff
Sure.
like that. So you're not really sure.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I really love about this group is I really did not know that they had so many midterm rental websites.
Okay.
Like I really only knew about Furnish Finders.
Yeah. There
And
are
so,
a lot of new ones. I would say a lot of them are very new and there's not much traction on them. But yeah, I know I'm sure you've experienced this where Furnish Finder, it's not the best designed website. It's kind of old. So there are people
mhm,
I've talked to who they're trying to create a basically a better version of Furnish Finder. Mini Stays is one of them. I think that's kind of more, I think has a further along, I guess, in their development.
mhm.
Yeah, so there are definitely people trying to do that.
Okay. Because I use VRBO, but it seemed
Okay.
like very scamish. So,
Yeah, VRBO, we use it as well, but we get very few midterm bookings there. I think it really is like they market themselves more as a vacation rental site, right? For short term.
mhm.
Yeah, like less than 5% bookings are from VRBO for us.
Yeah, let me see. There was another question I was going to ask you. So about the midterm rentals and I guess my question was about your website. So do you
Mhm.
guys have an actual landing page? Like for me, I don't have a website right now.
Yeah.
But so you guys have host a website, correct?
Yes. We have a website. You could it's housebehomes.com. You can check it out. It's I would say like when we had the current site we had built out, it was not cheap, but it was not primarily for getting bookings. It was for getting more property management clients. So we figured, people who are, wanting to do research on us, they can look us up online. We want to come off professional. And then even now at this point, we're doing like SEO. So some people who are like maybe they're searching Los Angeles mid-to property manager. We want them to find us, right? So that's a different purpose there, for our business model. I would say, if you even if you have one property, having a direct booking site is very valuable. For example, if someone wants to book and they're not from Airbnb, like let's say Furnish Finder or just someone else, you don't want to send them your Airbnb, link, right? You don't want them to book that.
Right.
So, do you use it like Hospitable or any kind of PMS?
I do not.
Okay.
So it
So,
sounds like I need to.
yeah. So I'm only mentioning that because most PMS systems have a direct booking like site, a simple direct booking site builder. So you don't have to
Hmm.
like build a different one. So if you already have that one of those systems, you can just turn that part on and it'll show the photos, it'll show the dates, people can see when it's available. I think that's a great first step. And then really, at some point, based on your goals, getting a nicer site, you could like kind of upgrade from there.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds, yes, this has been very valuable. Lots of great nuggets. I
Awesome.
thank you for sharing with me.
Yeah. Thank you for being available for this as well. Do you have any more questions?
No, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything for me?
Nothing specific. Usually I'm kind of share some logistics. I will send you the link when it goes live.
Okay.
And yeah, again, we James and I want to build this platform based on people's feedback, what they want. So anytime, feel free to DM me if you have, specific questions. Well, I would say like questions about MTRs, putting it in a post is best because people can see it, right?
Okay.
If you have
Yes.
feedback, you can send it. Um, we want to create things that, people are asking for. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if I'm ever in Los Angeles, I'm gonna definitely look you up.
Yeah, yeah. Let me know. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Stacey.
You're welcome.
All
Have
right.
a
Have
good
a good one.
night.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.